I thought everybody knew. I'm sorry.
Oh my God!
What the cop doesn't realize at this time is that Ina is a very good actor, and she knows far more about Steve's sickness than she leads on. You see, Steve was less than an hour away from cashing in a $37 million inheritance payment when he became fatally ill. And as the multi-week investigation would progress, detectives would quickly discover that Steve's death was due to poisoning. Someone had killed him, and everyone close to Steve all had dire needs to claim his newfound fortune by any means necessary.
It was like 20-something million. Best thing you can do is get on a plane and don't look back.
Was Chad?
Yeah.
Who was Chad on?
Trying to kick in everybody's door.
Who was he
He
out here fighting?
busted to my light and look at the garbage cans.
Who was he fighting with out here?
My fiance, he went for a walk, cool down.
Who's your fiance?
Steve, Riley.
Steve Riley?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your name?
I'm Ina.
Okay. Is your fiance hurt at all?
He got gash on his forehead.
Okay. You know, we just want to talk with him too, just to make sure he's all right if possible. There's blood all the way over there. That's good. So what actually happened tonight? What were they fighting over?
Chad was trying to kick in the door.
Just for no reason, or
Just drunk. He does that.
Where do you think your fiance would have went, so we could just get his side of the story real quick?
Oh, I don't know.
So you got a phone on him?
No, we don't have a phone until this afternoon.
But this is where Ina reveals something she shouldn't have: their plans to pay off all of their bills, which had over the years been racking up. And she does this for one reason: to brag.
He gets his inheritance this afternoon. That's why we're moving. We're gonna pay all our bills off that we need to pay off. His lawyer gets here today at 2 to sign the paperwork for his money.
Okay.
And then he's gonna go pay that. And his lawyer gonna pay the rest of his child support. And then take a long vacation.
In 2016, Steve's friend had received a call from a man named Marcus Riley, who claimed to be Steve's long-lost uncle from Ireland. He had explained that he finally wanted to get in touch with his nephew, Steve. After connecting with each other, Steve had learned he was in line to receive an inheritance upon his uncle's passing, which was a sum of over $17 million at the time. This was enough to permanently fix the financial struggles he and Ina had been dealing with. A couple of years later, 4 months prior to the footage you just watched, Steve would learn of his uncle's passing from a British lawyer who had contacted him. Additionally, he would learn that his $17 million inheritance had grown to over $30 million due to his uncle's successful investments over the years. That's why Ina cannot hold herself from boasting to the police. Tomorrow, they plan to meet with their lawyer to officially sign the documents and claim the $30 million inheritance fund. The two plan to take the money and live with Steve's long-lost family in Ireland, quote, living in the castles. In less than 24 hours, Ina will be rich. So as officers leave for the night, Ina would make one final statement about how her life was about to change forever.
If you want to step back inside, and then if Steve shows back up, we're going to try to look for him to get his side of the story as well. But if Steve shows back up, if you just want to give us a call or have him give us a call, we'll talk to him then, okay?
Yeah, he's gonna stop by anyways, like I said.
Sounds good.
I've only been able to put like $5 on his fines, but at least it was something.
Okay,
But-
sounds good.
We're gonna pay it all off, all at once.
Perfect, thank you.
Steve would return to his and Ina's apartment that night, and the two would patiently wait, not being able to sleep, as they counted down the hours until they would receive their millions. The plan to receive the funds was simple. At 2 p.m., the group would go to the airport to meet their lawyer, who was flying in with their inheritance paperwork. Ina and Steve obliged and would arrive at the airport alongside their two friends, Billy and Wes, before patiently waiting. However, while they were waiting for the lawyer's arrival, Steve would become extremely sick. He would claim feeling drunk, even throwing up in the airport bathrooms. His heart rate was rapidly increasing, and his condition worsened to the point where Wes decided to take him home to help him treat his sickness. Ina would wait at the airport for the lawyer to arrive. However, he would never show up. And after a couple of hours with no lawyer, no money, and a sick fiancé, she would return home as well.
911.
What?
Of your emergency?
My husband's really sick. He got heat stroke yesterday, and now he's not waking up. And come on, wake up!
What's the phone number
Hey!
you're calling from?
I don't have a phone number. It's a phone that never got finished getting set up. Come on, babe. I've been trying everything. Ice, water.
Okay, but he is breathing.
Yes, he's snoring. He won't talk to me anymore. He won't look at me. He won't open his eyes.
Okay,
Hey!
I've got help on the way. Just keep an eye on his breathing, and if anything changes with his breathing, tell me immediately.
Hello?
Yeah. It's Officer Sullivan, Minot PD.
Inside the home, officers would find Steve fully unresponsive. They would drag him out of the house through piles of trash and filth. Quickly, he was rushed to the nearest hospital, but with his condition so poor, he would be flown to the St. Alexis Hospital to undergo more professional treatment. Refused to believe that Steve's death was caused by heat stroke, especially since Steve seemed perfectly fine all day until they reached the airport. Instead, Billy suspected something far more sinister and wanted to share his theory with the detectives. So, the day after Steve's death, Billy would call officers back to apartment 912A to detail his side of the story.
We think she poisoned him. Oh, I'm almost sure she poisoned him.
So what's your plan right now?
We're making sure nothing goes. Because you know when they go to jail, they die.
I mean,
People come and clean
well,
them out.
how long are you going to stay here?
I'm gonna stay here until the sun gets here.
Oh. When's the sun supposed to get here?
He's not dead. I told you.
He
Stop!
He's not.
is dead. He's dead.
I just told his son.
And he was poisoned.
Billy's explanation for Steve's death is, well, horrifying. If Ina truly did poison Steve, then his symptoms would make sense, and would add up far more than the idea of him having a heat stroke. However, why would Ina want to poison her husband if they were about to live such a good life? Well, Billy seems to have the exact answer to that question.
The other day, she threw all the stuff out in the yard.
From his house?
Yeah, and he come out and he was holding his head down. And then we're supposed to go up to the airport and meet this guy because he's supposed to get quite a bit of money. Come back, we had to help him out of the car, had to help him in the house. And everything was fine until he come home. And then the next morning, she's throwing all this stuff out. She was supposed to call the ambulance. She never called the ambulance.
I thought everybody knew. I'm sorry.
Don't tell me anything. Oh my God.
I guess the sun is on his way here. Okay. Apparently the sun is on the way here. So.
Son better put them on.
Ina's reaction to her husband's passing is one of the strangest I've ever seen. She starts bawling her eyes out, then suddenly jumps right back to her normal self, as if she hadn't even heard the terrible news to begin with. It's becoming more and more clear that something is not adding up. Billy was not the only person to initially put the blame on Ina. In fact, he was only one of many who would come forward with their concerns. In fact, Billy's wife, Lynn, had stated that Ina had made horrifying statements in the past, alluding that if she was to ever kill her partner, she would poison him, using an antifreeze. To add to the pile of already incriminating information, Steve would be tested for ethylene glycol in his bloodstream, a key ingredient in antifreeze. To nobody's surprise, the results showed toxic levels of ethylene glycol in his system. This information would serve as the catalyst for initiating a formal homicide investigation into the death of Steve Riley.
We're assigned the case of your dad's passing. You're really the only next of kin that's maybe had a relationship with your dad, it sounds like?
Yeah.
Okay. Did he ever talk to you about Ina when you guys talked in the last year?
Yeah. He was talking about how he was getting a large sum of money and he kind of just wanted to leave her because she didn't really have a job and was like leeching off of him.
Did Steve ever talk about leaving Ina?
All the time,
Okay.
every day. She talked about poisoning Steve
Okay.
and me because we're always together, and she didn't like that. And I don't know how much it was. It's supposed to be. It's way up there in the money. It was like 20-something million. Best thing you can do is get on a plane and don't look back.
Yeah.
I said that's the best thing you can do.
Almost every piece of information the detectives receive leads straight to Ina as the killer. It also makes sense why Ina hated Billy and Steve's son so much, as they knew far more information than she would have liked about the inheritance and her schemes to obtain it. These interviews wouldn't last long, as detectives got all the information they needed from the two and could directly confront Ina with it. But before leaving, they would break disturbing news to Ryan, which would make this case even more of a terrible tragedy.
So this inheritance now, I'm thinking that's the same thing we're thinking. Which, I mean, I obviously don't know for sure, but by all accounts of looking at it, it looks like it's a scam. Looks like it's the letter has different fonts in it and things, and the fact that your dad had gone there several times to meet with some lawyer, never showed up to the airport.
That and all the emails that they tried to send back to the sender of those emails, it always came back undeliverable.
The inheritance was a scam. Steve had lived for the past 7 years under the impression that if he just patiently waited, living through his terrible living conditions, he would come out with more money than he could dream of and finally enjoy life. Even worse was that this very scam that stagnated his life for years may have been the cause of his very own death.
How much money was it?
It was supposed to be 17 million. 17,500,000. So, but with all the property sold off, it ended up being 37 million.
So there was cash and properties were sold.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I gave all the information
Who was it supposed to be coming from? Who was the family member?
Marcus something Riley.
Was that a brother or
Uncle.
That was an uncle. Okay. Did he live
In Ireland.
Okay. How does it get to? Is it starting to be that the lawyer is starting to give him like a time that he's coming to Minot?
Yeah. That's pretty much when he kept saying, I'm going to show up at this time. And Steve would ride down there, and he wasn't there. And then he'd get the email afterwards that he was going to come until later and then later.
Okay.
The detectives would spend the next 25 minutes trying to understand Ina's timeline for the day they planned to receive the inheritance. Whenever she gave a time for when the group went to the airport, she would conveniently change that time entirely, just a few minutes later. But one detail would stay the same. Unlike her original claims to officers on the day of the murder, she would insist that Steve had never gone to the airport, but rather Wes had gone instead to represent Steve. This was confusing, but Ina's reason as to why Steve couldn't make it to the airport would make just as little sense.
Because he was drinking beer all day, he was working in the garage, he was spray painting his truck, with the doors and the windows closed, barely drinking any water.
So he consumed almost a case of beer in.
Oh, he can drink more than that.
Pay attention to Ina here. She's carefully crafting a story to deflect suspicion, but the detectives came prepared.
I've seen him drink a couple cases.
But on that day.
Yeah, it was a case of beer.
From probably 6 or 7 in the morning? until 2 in the afternoon, so 5 to 6 hours. Does that sound right?
Probably.
Okay. Did you drink anything else?
Just a glass of water and his tea. I made iced tea because he begged for iced tea.
Steve had no traces of alcohol in his system the day of his death, proven by a blood test and toxicology. So detectives know, clearly, Ina is lying through her teeth.
So I just have a lot of concerns here, okay, and I'm just going to be honest with you. You told the paramedics when they were there that morning or afternoon that he had been drinking till 5 in the morning, that he'd been consuming alcohol. That's on body cam. Okay, you said he was drinking all day the day before and that he drank his last drink at 5 a.m. Okay, and now you're telling me
tea.
That's not what you say on this video, okay?
I want to see this video.
Okay, well, I'm not going to show you the body cam. I'm just telling you that that's what's on there. There's reports that Wes came to the house that morning, and you said that Steve was at the walk-in clinic. He wasn't at the walk-in clinic.
Steve didn't want to see Wes anymore.
Okay, but Steve wasn't at the walk-in clinic.
He was at the hospital.
He wasn't at the hospital.
He just left with the ambulance when Wes showed up there.
That's not what's been reported to us. Wes was there prior to.
Yeah, the timestamps prove that.
I want a lawyer.
Okay, that's fine.
Realizing she's running out of options to defend herself, and with the detectives closing in, Ina resorts to something surprisingly clever as a last-ditch effort, asking for a lawyer.
Am I being arrested?
Nope, you're not being arrested. We're just talking. So, but if you want a lawyer, we can stop talking right now. That's fine.
But I'm telling you the God honest truth.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. I wish I was there. I wish I was with him every second of the day that day. I wish I watched every single. But I'm not his goddamn mom.
You asked for a lawyer, Ina, so we're just gonna end this now. Okay, I'm not gonna talk anymore. All right.
You guys are so unbelievable. Fucking weird.
The second Ina realized the detectives saw right through her story, she folded under the pressure and insisted on a lawyer. Ina had finally realized her game was over. Following this interrogation, Ina would roam free while detectives scrambled for concrete evidence that she had poisoned Steve. Ina would continue fighting for her innocence, making more deranged theories, such as Steve drinking the antifreeze out of shame that the lawyer was a fraud, or that she had too been poisoned just months prior. Unfortunately for her, police managed to file a search warrant on apartment 912A, finding multiple alarming items. An old Windex bottle without a cap, containing a bright green liquid suspected to be antifreeze, as well as a Coors Light bottle containing antifreeze, found in the garage Steve had been working in that morning. This exact Coors Light bottle was what Ina used to poison Steve with. Antifreeze contains ethylene glycol, an ingredient that makes the liquid taste sweet. By mixing this with tea, Steve was fully unable to tell this fatal substance apart from his typical morning tea. Additionally, by hiding the liquids in the dark Coors Light bottle, Steve was unable to see the bright green color of this drink. With all of this newfound, completely incriminating evidence, as well as the numerous lies and false claims Ina had told law enforcement, she would finally be arrested on October 30th, 2024.
Who's that?
I know.
Please lock up my house.
Yeah, we'll lock up the house for you.
I'll give you the keys, but
We'll lock the house up for you.
why me?
So right. If we let you smoke a cigarette, you're gonna be decent?
Well, I'm decent all the time.
I never dealt with you, so just don't.
Never been arrested before like this.